Roxanne.
Hey, how are you?
Oh my goodness. I had a friend of mine in my neighborhood work with you on some music project, but no, I hear you know how to play a mean guitar. How's it?
Right here.
Yes, because I think the microphones will be right here.
Can everyone take their seat in the back, please? We're behind schedule. Can we hurry up and take our seats in the back, please?
Yeah, you can, or this remote, whatever works best for you.
Will all council members please take their seats? Anthony Davis, could you please take your seat?
Go that way.
I want to thank everyone for being here today. I'd like to thank the members of the NAACP. I'd like to thank the Edge Hill neighbors. Also, I've saw several other people here, Chairman Wallace, and also I'd like to thank the folks here with Cloud Hill. I will let everyone do their introductions in a second, but we have a couple of housekeeping items that we must take care of. Number one, there will be a 20-minute presentation. There will only be allowed 20 minutes from questions from the council members. And Mr. Jameson, help me if you can here, because there is an appeal going on with this decision, we are not allowed to deliberate because it may affect it one way or another, and we don't want to get any legal trouble. But we're going to keep our word. We're going to let Cloud Hill do their presentation, and we're going to have 20 minutes of questions afterwards, and then I'll have a brief, very brief closing statement. Thank you. We'll start here from the left and go to the right.
So if I may, my name is Bert Matthews. I welcome the opportunity to speak to you. Today, joining me will be T-Bone Burnett, who will be speaking, Clay Atkinson, also joined by Kia Jarman, Ed Henley, Roxanne Bethune, and we each have a piece to share. So we appreciate the chance to present. We're looking forward to a long conversation. If we go through this process, we'll be speaking to parks, to planning, the city council, so we'll be back to you. So there'll be lots of community engagement. There have been years of community engagement since Greer was, since the Sounds decided to leave Greer. There have been a multitude of community meetings and will continue to be community meetings. Those community meetings kind of form the basis of a request for qualifications, and these are the 7 items that are in that request for qualifications. Provide publicly accessible, active and passive open space, provide affordable and workforce housing, neighborhood scale retail, commercial space, a design sensitive to Fort Negley, provide places for neighborhood art and entertainment, deliver a high-quality neighborhood-scale mixed-use development, and limit the financial risk to Metro. We submitted a proposal and are in the process of going through that Metro system to be heard. In a nutshell, what we provide is tax revenue from a piece of property that has been closed behind a bunch of fence with literally grass growing that is feet high, $1 million guaranteed payment, shared revenues from the project, and open space, which matches up for plan to play. So we will be talking also today about the design proposal itself, so you can walk through and see what that is. We'll be talking about our community engagement plan, where we're asking for lots of additional community input. We'll be telling you about our accountability plan, and then we'll be open to your questions. But before we go into the design and the engagement plan, I would really like for you to hear from my good friend and partner, the person who is kind of the vision behind us, my friend T-Bone Burnett.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you. Good evening, I guess. It's on?
It's on. It should be on. Try it now.
Shall I? Oh, there. Thank you. Hi, good evening. Thank you for having us. Cloud Hill is a civic project. The goal of this project is to make a place where people from every neighborhood in Nashville feel welcome and safe 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. The goal of this project is to make a place where we can all be together. I am not a developer. I am not a builder. I have no interest in building condos. I don't want to build a high-rise. I got into this to try to help clean up and transform a deserted and distressed place right in the middle of town. It is a place that mirrors the troubles faced by many in Nashville today. We are not a traditional real estate development team. We are a placemaking team. This means we are committed to bringing many diverse voices together to contribute to a shared vision for the future of the Greer Stadium site and the Fort Negley site, both of which sit with the Adventure Science Center on historic St. Cloud Hill. Placemaking is the act of strengthening the connections between people and the places they share, leading to a deepened sense of connection to our environment, culture, history, and each other. We seek to bring people together to reflect and heal from our tortured past so we can build our future peacefully together. We intend to provoke debate and reflection across a broader swath of Nashville's civil society. But there has been a deception spread around town that comes down to this, quote, "This Greer Stadium site is being sold with the city getting nothing for it, and they're going to put condos on African-American graves." There is not one part of that assertion that is true. That whole fabrication is a damned lie. Those who started this lie, who do not seek to unite us, but rather seek to divide us, even in the face of the racial tension that has risen in our country, as we saw 2 days ago in Charlottesville, Virginia, those people should be ashamed of themselves. The last thing our city needs right now is hate rooted in alternative facts. This cynical attempt to provoke racial discord is undiluted wickedness. Please let's calm this down. Please let's respect one another. I want to be final and definitive. There is no possible way we are going to build anything on the graves of the people who built Fort Negley. If their graves are found there, all plans change. But also, the site is not being sold, it is being leased. The city is not getting nothing in return. It will get a $110 million investment in civic infrastructure at no cost to the city, and will share in the revenue that infrastructure generates for decades. And we are not going to put condos on the side. We think the possibility of there being graves of the African Americans who built the fort to be the first and most important question to address on a site. We agree with Councilman Mendez that the city should do an archaeological survey of the site that we can all trust This whole process, all of civilization, in fact, depends on our trusting each other. We as a country are in a bad place in that regard at the moment. But here is a place where we can make a positive step toward each other to build trust and to build consensus toward a peaceful future. Our future is a shared future. We owe it to our children to get this right, and we need physical space that connects us and our neighborhoods to do just that. So even though we have begun an archaeological survey of the site, we want to pause while the city conducts a survey that will not be in any way tainted by the unethical campaign that has been waged to instigate racial animosity and to defame the members of our team. From our conversations so far, we have realized that not a lot of people know about Fort Negley. Fewer have been there, and fewer still know its history, which is a shame because that means we aren't fully learning from our past. Many don't know it was a Union fort built by African Americans who had escaped bondage, but who were considered contraband, an odious distinction. Some of whom were conscripted, taken out of church at Rifle Point to build it. They don't know about the contraband camps or the people that died building the fort, or that there may be remains of those people buried on the site. They don't know that soon after the war, Nathan Bedford Forrest and the Ku Klux Klan met at the fort to organize to keep the freed slaves away from the voting booth. They don't know that the structure that is up on St. Cloud Hill now is a 1930s WPA reconstruction of the fort that had fallen into ruins decades earlier. It could rightly be thought of as a monument to the fort, and the limestone walls of the structure that is there now are deteriorating and falling into ruins. The site needs to be redeemed. But people need to know. We need to know because we cannot move forward if we do not learn from our violent past and understand why we are here today, why we are where we are today. In our years of study about this site, we have collected over 40 gigabits of data. Those data show us why the fort has been so neglected all these years. We have heard that old fears and grievances played a significant part in that neglect, but there's a more concrete reason, an interstate freeway system that came through and carved up the town, destroying neighborhoods and starving Fort Negley. This is a challenging site. In our research about the site, we have not found a successful park in the United States surrounded by a light industrial warehouse district, as is St. Cloud Hill. This park is surrounded immediately to the west by Interstate 65, immediately to the north by Interstate 40, immediately to the east by railroad tracks, and immediately to the south by a light industrial warehouse district along Chestnut Street. Fort Negley has been cut off from the city, hidden in plain sight. This is a reality we have to deal with. Until St. Cloud Hill is reconnected to the city across 65 and under 40, and Chestnut Street is activated on both sides of the street, Fort Negley will remain neglected. It is time we bridge or tear down the barriers that still divide our city. By doing so, we will create a more unified and healthier community. Together through this process of building the Nashville we want in the 21st century, we will fight to heal on Cloud Hill as we honestly discuss our past while learning to speak and listen to each other with dignity and respect. And we will prepare for a peaceful transition into what our mayor calls a minority-majority city in the 2020s. We therefore propose together to create a cultural space that inspires empathy. This empathy, founded in human dignity, is an essential component of Nashville's tomorrow. I believe in the power of place to tell a story. For instance, the story of the Fish Jubilee Singers going to Europe in 1873 to raise money for the young African-American university, and Queen Victoria saying that the singers' voices were so beautiful, they must come from Music City, branding Nashville to this day. The civil rights history of Nashville that followed is unique in our country's history. From the casting of the deciding vote that gave women suffrage to the Highlander Folk School where Woody Guthrie, Pete Seeger, Rosa Parks, Martin King Jr., John Lewis, and Andrew Young studied nonviolent civil disobedience and learned the power of song to bring about change. Where We Shall Overcome was written, to Tennessee State University, to Diane Nash and the lunch counter sit-ins. Because of this history, Nashville is incredibly well positioned to lead our country into a more equitable, generous, and honest 21st century. It is a crucial story to tell, and that story is well told, starting right at the summit of St. Cloud Hill. We have brought in archaeologists, mediators, and historians to help ensure that those who gave up their bodies and lives here are respected and properly memorialized. When we give due respect to everyone's history at this site, we will begin to build a bridge to a future that includes everyone. The upside of this sad and needless controversy is that we are having this important conversation in the first place, that people are finally beginning to learn the important history of Fort Negley. We are going to listen, and listen hard, all of us. We're going to love one another. Let's work together to create a place that belongs to and is loved and cared about by the whole city. We come in peace and goodwill. We have studied hard and will continue to. We have sought out and are bringing together the very finest minds in the world in the area of placemaking, who have contributed to some of the most beautiful and thriving public spaces in the world. We intend to bring to bear every bit of intelligence, conscience, generosity, faith, kindness, and love we have on this endeavor. We as a city have this choice: to honor the past with a plan for the future, or to honor the past with no plan for the future. Let us open our hands, our minds, and our hearts and work together to secure this important summit. Let's make a future where we all want to live. Thank you.
Clay.
Not to put a clock on you, but you have 6 minutes.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Clay Atkinson. I'd like to just spend a minute and show you more about what T-Bone started to illustrate with our plan and how we attempted to answer the requirements set out by the RFQ. And so if you'll direct your attention to the screens, I'm going to kind of run through some things with you. So first, I'd just like to point out one thing during this study that we wanted to point out was how important this Greer Stadium site could be to contributing as an asset that really benefits our entire city. Building on the legacy of Nashville Next and Plan to Play, and many of the other great documents that are emerging now that the cities and the council have been working on for a long time, we see this site as an opportunity to connect the city, its diverse neighborhoods, and its brand equity, us being Music City, as T-Bone mentioned, in a new and interesting way. And this Greer site is really critical to being the center of it. As T-Bone discussed the history of the site, it was a Civil War fortress, and then in the 30s, the WPA reconstructed the walls, and in the 40s was the first time that the community ball fields emerged at the base of the site, which is now the Greer Stadium area. And so these were community baseball fields until the 70s, when they built Greer Stadium and created the parking lots that are now around Greer Stadium. You can see in the last image from the 1990s where the stadium parking was really expanded and has now kind of created the dog-legged shape, which is the site. So this red line shows that area. It's the 21-acre site that our proposal occupies. And you can see Fort Negley is outlined in black here. So this site is the Greer Stadium baseball stadium and also parking lots. And so looking at this area, what's currently there is 67% unusable parking spaces and 33% unusable green spaces. That includes the stadium field and some of these surrounding areas. So the crux of our proposal is turning parking spaces into park spaces. So this is a park, this is a place with neighborhood retail, this is a place with maker spaces and creative office spaces, all of the requirements that the RFQ asked us to answer as an offerer. And so what we'd like to do is integrate that with park spaces and make sure that this is something that really can contribute back to this neighborhood in a meaningful way. So our proposal, measuring it by the same standards, is 35% buildings and 65% usable park spaces. So very quickly, I just want to show you, how those things work. So Metro Parks Department owns this site, and they also own the surrounding sites, including where the Adventure Science Center is up to the right of your screen. And you can see Fort Negley is kind of the jewel that holds this whole Metro Park site together. So what we'd like to propose are uses that complement this larger park and answer the request in the RFQ. So 1 acre of that is neighborhood retail. These would be things of the character of the neighborhood, places like Dozen, places like Clausen's, places that are really indicative to this neighborhood. This is a place for small businesses. The 6.6 acres of that would be community spaces. So if you've been to Fort Negley, there's a great visitor center there. They do a lot of really great programs. We hope that we can enhance these kind of community programs and create places for the neighborhood too, places to host events, places to have classes, places to do educational things. We really are looking forward to working with the community to figure out what these uses are. And then 1/4 of an acre would be an arts and music generator. And I know I'm short on time, but what I can say is this is a place where professionals and also community members can come together to advance our expression, our creative culture as artists. I think that's something that as Music City and Nashville, we're really strong at and we're really proud of. 0.85 acres being maker space and creative office space. So this is similar to things like Fort Houston, which is a place like this that's already in this neighborhood. This is something that embraces the industrial character that Wedgwood Houston has always held and marries that with the artists and the creative people that live and work in this neighborhood. And finally, 1.4 acres of affordable living. And so as you've heard on the last panel, affordable housing is an urgent need for us as a city, and this is an opportunity to address that. So after all those uses, what remains is 13.66 acres of usable open park space. So that's 65%. And that can be playgrounds, that can be multi-purpose ball fields that honor the history of this always being kind of a community ball field. That can be educational spaces, spaces for pop-up uses, et cetera. And this is a quick image to kind of show you the character of this. It's really important to our team that this was a neighborhood scale project. That's what we proposed. So no buildings that we proposed are any taller than the existing press boxes of the stadium. So it's really important for us as a team that Fort Negley is honored as the crown jewel of this greater parks atmosphere. And so we hope by delivering these new amenities, this will make it an active and urban park. And a place that this neighborhood can continue to live in and to work in and to call home. And as far as affordability, we know from the last panel that this is a need in our city right now, but what we proposed was 294 units. All of them are rentals, none of them are condos, and we were trying to work really hard on this plan to make sure that we can deliver housing that is affordable to all Nashvillians and all of us that call the city home.
Test. Okay. I'm Kia Jarman, and I'm working on the community engagement on this project. And over the last 3 weeks, we've been really in the community having conversations with individual leaders in the faith community, some of our council persons, some academic professionals, and we'll continue those conversations. But we also realize we need to speak to the greater community as well. And not only just speak to them and give them this presentation, but also listen and hear what they would like and their feedback. So we'll be doing that. And my goal is to partner with each of you, council persons, so that I can come into your district and schedule some time. What may make sense is that we partner neighboring communities together so we can host a larger community conversation. So that we can really make sure that we're hearing what the community desires. And then the expectation is we'll come back with some additional options of what the plan can look like and updated once we hear from the community. Okay, so can I get all agreement that you're going to partner with me? Okay, I'd like to put you on the spot. Okay, and I'll turn it over to Ed and Roxanne.
Do we have time?
I've got 1 minute.
Okay.
Great. Real quick, Roxanne Bethune is my name. Just want to talk real quickly about the diversity opportunity on this project. One of the things that was really exciting about the fact that I had an opportunity to work with a team that was committed to diversity from the beginning, and I enjoyed that. We're going to start with the ordinance that you, council members, actually put into place, BL 2013-517, and it pertains to the 20% diversity participation. We're going to start with that, and we're going to work with the community in order to make sure that we are doing the outreach that's necessary in order for us to achieve that. The team has committed to that from the beginning. We're excited about moving forward with it, and we look for you guys' support.
Just to follow Roxanne there, I just wanted to say that one of the things we're definitely focused on doing is building on the success of some past projects. Had the pleasure of working with the city on the Music City Center, Sind Amphitheater, as well as currently working with the Nissan Stadium. And all of those projects have been tracking and reporting their diversity percentage to the city, as well as the Business Assistance Office. And we've achieved or exceeded the 20%, and we feel confident that we can do that here as well. And we're willing to commit to that same accountability and reporting, mirroring our practices to what we've done with the city on city projects, and the same for reporting and accountability.
All right. Thank you. We'll now open it to the council members for questions. Councilor Allen, you're recognized.
Thank you. I appreciate y'all making the time to squeeze a really important presentation into a short amount of time. I was also present at the Friends of Fort Negley presentation, where it was also great information. One of the topics that came up repeatedly was an additional desire to add more elements that dealt with the history of the site. Would it be possible for some of this space to become a history museum, so that could be an expansion of the visitor center that's there, but actually have a Civil War history museum to provide more information about what that site is all about?
Yes. I mean, I'm glad to expand and tell, but
Absolutely, yes.
What I'll say is that one of the things that I did need to is, thank you, is the advisory committee that will be put together of individuals who, whether they're descendants of Fort Negley, whether there's someone that you'd like to put up on the slate, faith leaders, but getting together, what we realize as a team is that we're probably not the most qualified to find out what needs to be going on that space to memorialize Fort Negley. And so we'd like to be able to get that feedback from that particular advisory group and committee. So I'm also looking forward to hearing your thoughts about who should really be representing that particular advisory group.
Thank you. Councilman Kendall, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all for being here, sharing with us. I've got a couple of questions, I guess. One is about the financial part of it. Now, could you explain that this is a lease, and you say shared revenue? What does the shared revenue mean?
so what we have proposed in the request for qualifications is that we would have a minimum payment, and then we would also have a sharing based on the land sales or land leases as they are being worked on. So that's also, once we get the final plan, we will be able to detail those. We've got some fairly comprehensive numbers in the proposal itself, but that will be determined based on the plan that Parks, Planning, and ultimately the City Council approve.
Okay, I saw you had a breakdown of the 294 units. I couldn't see it very well. Can't see that far. How many were in I think you have three categories, primarily affordable, workforce, and marketplace. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And what are I can't see it. What are the affordable?
So we've got 80 that are in the, from a revenue standpoint of 0 to 34,000. And really what we've kind of done is talked about the people that would be there, elderly, part-time workers, people on a fixed income, waiters, musicians, construction workers. And then on the affordable side, nurses, teachers, bus drivers, that. We've kind of divided out into those several buckets.
Okay, I see now. my colleague reminded me that I can punch it on the computer so I can see it. So I can thank you, Mr. Sledge. The other question I have is we had a rather extended meeting earlier about minority participation, and I know when we say minority participation, that includes more than just African Americans. But I'm wondering on this project, since, as the gentleman pointed out, Fort Negley was built by freed slaves or attempted freed slaves or what he called contraband, could we not look at that figure that you're talking about in terms of 20%, specifically dealing with African Americans? You know, the information we got earlier tonight, only 2.8% of the contracts that are awarded in this city go to African American, and that is unacceptable. You know, I mean, we're talking about a population in Nashville of what, 26%, somewhere in that neighborhood. But I'm just wondering, I hear the 20% figure. Is that minority or is that just African American?
That's an overall percentage. It will be a combination of the minorities, women, small and disabled veterans for the project, but that's just a goal for us to start with.
Well, I would encourage you to try to get that figure up substantially, especially when we're talking about a facility, a park, that fort, where we had slaves and African Americans who died, you know, building this structure. And I think that would just be something that you could be positive, you know, for this city, a statement for this city, to ensure that a large percentage, as large percentage you can do, really, because we have contractors in this city who can afford, who can build these structures, who can, you know, not just from a standpoint of skills, but a standpoint of bonding capacity and others. I know some. So I would encourage you to do that, and maybe before we even approve this, give us some concept of how you're going to accomplish that.
And we would be more than willing to actually do that. I would say, again, that the 20% is a minimum. And if we looked at the previous projects that we worked on, those percentage varied just based on availability and also the vendors that applied. My goal for this particular project, just because of what you said, is for us to do a major outreach to the minority, African American specifically community, so that we can see that percentage actually goes up. But we will definitely put that effort for this particular project just because of the historical value.
Well, I'll commit to you that I'll help you do that.
Thank you, and I will hold you to that.
Thank you. Councilman Jim Schulman at large.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all for being here. So, Mr. Atkinson, a question. You had talked about this development being kind of like the center of Nashville, the Music City, something. And I tried to write it down, but I didn't get it all. What do you mean by that?
Sure. You're going to go back to the... Oops. I thought you found it. There it is. Still there, microphone.
Thank you for the question. So what we mean by that is before we, really dug in and looked at the site being the 21-acre parking lot, we wanted to understand better as a team how that fits into the city. And so thinking about the great work that's come out of Plan to Play and Nashville Next and a lot of the programs that are, thinking about these things, it really comes down to three things. So the big one is connectivity. So there's been a lot of plans for a long time, the Sobro Master Plan and others, talking about 6th Avenue being a complete street, having sidewalks, having trees, being much more pedestrian than it is right now. And so I think where our plan was unique for this project was we talked about 6th Avenue, which dead ends kind of right there at Adventure Science Center, coming in and coming up the backside of the Greer Stadium property. So you could have a greenway that runs from downtown all the way to South Nashville. And I know with Fair Park being announced recently, there's a great opportunity for this site to tie into Fair Park, which is less than a mile away, so that we can bring, greenways and alternative mobility as a city, from downtown all the way south. So that would be one part. And the other is on this diagram that's on the screen, you can see the different neighborhoods. You have everything from the Vanderbilt community to the Music Row community to the Edge Hill community to parts of the Gulch, all the way over to the Sudicum and Napier Homes community. I mean, there's a lot of diversity represented in this cross-section of Nashville. And so the Greer Stadium site and Fort Negley site, right here in the middle of this. So there's a great opportunity to bring a place that helps bring all of these people together in ways that they can, enjoy the site however, they want to. So being able to recognize that this is an important part there. And then I think the final point to make would be that this is really a great place in the string of jewels of the Metro Parks system. So you've got great parks, on the left side, you can see Centennial Park, all the way over to Rose Park and Reservoir Park, to the city cemetery and to Dudley Park. So there's a lot of great parks already in this area, but what's really missing at kind of the city scale is an opportunity to combine parks with the needs of the community. And so I think in our proposal, we did the best job we could to, put forth answers to questions that were issued in the RFQ on how we can combine both those things in a way that works for the city.
Okay, but two other questions. Just so I was trying to count up how many actual building sites are there going to be on the property?
I'll pick this image just because it's a little closer. So you can see there are I believe it's 13 buildings. Check my math. But so the red being the retail buildings, the blue being the community buildings, the arts and music generator, maker space and creative office space, and then the green being affordable living. So that's where the 294 units of affordable housing we propose.
Okay, so up in the corner, looking up in the, on this diagram, it would be the northwest corner. Those, it looks like 5 separate buildings. I know they're all connected, but it's like 5 separate buildings.
Correct.
Is that right?
Yes. So, and you can see that kind of thing that separates them. So that's one of these pedestrian, open spaces that helps all this feel like it's part of the park and community and not, isolated or enclaved.
All right. So if there's 5 up there, 3, 4, 5 in that. So there's 10 on that side, and then there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it looks like 21.
1, 2, 3.
5 up at the top, 5 in the bottom, and then on the right side, it looks like there's at least.
Yes, so and this one in particular, the blue rectangle in the center and the blue rectangle at the top, those are fixed buildings. The other ones would be more pavilions or, kind of similar. You have park sheds in a lot of our parks, places where you can have a picnic or get some shelter if it rains.
I don't even think I was counting the ones up at the top.
Okay.
Over above the.
So I think my count may have been different because where it would split the housing here, those buildings are only split by their pedestrian access. So.
Right. All right. So, and then one last question. No, Mr. Burnett said this, but archaeological studies, has anybody done a study on this piece of property?
So there's been lots of work on Fort Negley.
Right.
But there has been no archaeological looking on the Greer Stadium piece.
Yeah. So nobody at this point, nobody knows exactly what lies beneath that property.
Correct.
So when the stadium was built and the parking, there was no study at that point either.
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, next speaker. Councilor Dowell, please.
Thank you. I just had a couple of questions. I want to thank you first for coming and showing this presentation. I honestly hadn't looked at it to see what was being proposed here. But I will tell you that I love history. I have visited Fort Negley. I've read the books about it long before you come before me, and thought about, the fact that what a wonderful site it is, what a wonderful history it is that's not being told in this city. And I battle with this often, and this is pertaining to my question is how do we best honor these spaces, and how do we best complement development that's adjacent to these spaces and encompass the space? I talked with Kia Jarman. I told how many forts I've been to visit. Every year I go up to Rhode Island to go to Fort Adams State Park, and I look at all of these forts and what the city has done to preserve it, honor it, make sure all the young people know about it, and we've not done that with ours. And when I think about a development, I think about, you talked about placemaking and creating this space. When I look at the proposal, it makes me wonder, who are we placemaking for? And is the placemaking that we're creating the best way to honor the adjacent property and the history there? I've been in Nashville over 20 years, and it's sad that I have to go outside the city. When I go to Birmingham a couple of weeks ago in a conference, and then going down to Selma, I have to go outside the city to learn about the history of African Americans in Nashville. And it's sad that we do not do a very good job of telling the story, having a space, having a place, and honoring those and recognizing those contributions and those things that African Americans have done in this city, to make it what it is. So there are no spaces to tell the story. So I see this as an opportunity to do both, to preserve what's there and to create something that honors it. And I'm not confident with what I'm seeing that, it's the best way of honoring. I see remnants of the fairgrounds again. And I think it goes back to engaging the community and having conversation in those communities. And I know that some level of meetings were held, but I don't think we reached the masses of the community to get the level of engagement that's needed for people to put insight into the space and to understand it. And I didn't see on here, I couldn't tell what is a total percentage, the number of acreage planned for development. I know that Fort Negley is about 55 or so acres, and I know this space, I was trying to figure out in totality how many acres it is. I see the breakdown where you have 1 acre of retail and so forth, but I wanted to see the
total site is 21 acres.
It's 21 acres. And you're developing what percentage of that 21 acres?
Sure.
So of the 21 acres, 65% of it is open, usable, and public space. And then that 35% that's remaining is a combination of roads, parking, and the buildings themselves. So the buildings themselves are only 4.1 acres of space.
Okay. So the other question I have is, I did hear at one time, and I know we've applied a couple of times to get Fort Negley designated as some type of site. Have you had any conversations with I think it's the National Register or something like that? I can't remember. Well, I know they're on there, but there was another designation that in our minority caucus meeting that was mentioned that someone was making application to put this on some type of site, and no conversations had been had with this particular person. Your Nest World Heritage, have you spoken with anyone with that group to determine whether or not this development would present any type of issue with that site being designated?
We have not. We've responded to a request for qualifications, but most importantly, I think what you pointed out is that we're open to a lot of community engagement, a lot of community discussion, and perhaps that would be a question we can ask, find out, and learn about.
I do want to say this is just a flexible general plan, and I agree with you completely. We've barely begun to be able to engage with the community, so you're right about that.
Yeah, I'm going to allow other people to ask questions because I've had some conversations on it, but again, I would like for us to start with the premise of how do we best honor this site, the African American contributions that were to the site, tell the story and the history on this site as it surrounds Fort Negley. And I think when we start with that idea in mind, we can create that placemaking site, we can preserve the history, we can tell the story, and we can do all of those things. I'm not confident, and I know this is just a mock-up and this is just some ideas to be floated out there, but creating another mixed-use retail site with housing, we have numerous spaces in the city. I have Global Mall in my district that I want someone to place make there. Starwood, I would love to have this at Starwood, just to be honest with you. I mean, it's a placemaking site. It's open for it. So I don't know if the design here, I would love for us to talk. I want to keep an open mind on this, but I would like to have more conversation. I would love to see more engagement, and I would love to see, of course, you know, Greer Stadium as it looked now, it doesn't complement the city. You know, it doesn't encourage people to go visit Fort Negley and the Venture Science Center. So I would like to see something. What that looks like, I don't know, and I think that comes from getting out into the community, talking to these historical groups, and having conversation and engagement to come up with a plan that will work for the betterment of the entire city. But keeping in mind, from my perspective, on a cultural level, I would like to see Nashville do something and have something here. When people come to town and I say, this is a space, I want to take them to a public space. I don't want to have to take them to Tennessee State University or Fisk. You know, what do we have public that we have done to honor African Americans in this city and tell the story? I want to have something there. So I appreciate, you know, as we have these conversations, that's kept in mind.
Let's work together to do that. I'm with you 100%.
Thank you.
Councilman Mendez, and we have two other questions after this. So just reminding everyone, we still have another committee after this to get to.
I'll keep this a discreet question. You got my attention when you said I had a good idea, but I wanted to follow up on that. So what I heard you guys say is that your archaeology efforts are going to be paused, and Metro is going to do the archaeology.
So I'll let Metro speak for Metro, but we have gotten, we're going to keep learning about the site and learning more and more and more. We think that's valuable for everybody to know as much as we possibly can and to share that with folks also.
That's correct. We think it's important that there be an independent look at this site from an archaeological perspective. Sorry about that. And so we've asked General Services and Parks to work together on finding a qualified firm who could do that study outside of any proposer, so that we felt that we had a good independent look at that, and then we'll see what the results are from there. And they should hopefully get started on that in the next week or so.
And so theoretically, well, not theoretically, we'll be able to have those answers before decisions are made?
Clearly, yes, sir. Yeah, I think it's imperative that information be done well in advance of being asked by the council or the park board even to move forward or anything on this proposal.
Well, for me, thank you to Metro and you guys and everybody involved, because I think getting somebody who's independent and not deemed to have a bias by any group is an important step to figure out what's actually there. What's there archaeologically is obviously not the only piece of the puzzle, as you guys have said, I think, and many of the council members have, but it is an important piece, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Council Lady Van Rees.
Thank you very much. I wanted just to speak to the efforts in regard to making this a creative space and a maker space, and I appreciate that. I think that we're seeing more and more people move to town and understand and realize that we're still a destination for creatives, and there needs to be continued effort to make places for that. On behalf of some fellows in my district that are members of the Nashville Symphony, there's been several questions in regard to whether or not the main building will actually be large enough for a soundstage. As you know, there's no place in Nashville for a full orchestra to record for film, and that is an ongoing demand. And so I'm wondering whether or not there's been any conversation to make sure that one of these buildings has that opportunity to be available to them.
Let us study and take, that's exactly the kind of input that we're looking at, much like Councilman Allen's look also, to try to see if we can come back with a plan that includes ideas that y'all have and ideas that we're picking up in the community also. So thank you very, very much.
County Gilmore.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. I actually have 2 questions, or maybe 3. But the first was, just from looking, could you clarify more where, if you were to develop it under your proposed development, how Fort Negley, how many acres? I didn't see that. Maybe I missed that. How many acres Fort Negley would be developed under your proposal?
So we wouldn't be working on Fort Negley at all. So
Okay, you wouldn't-
this
okay.
is the Greer Stadium site.
Okay.
So the fort is where it is and stays where it is, and we keep off of that site.
So you would just build around it? Did you show something there that you were renovating it? What have I missed? I missed something.
So the way that Metro has the parcel boundaries.
Okay.
So they've leased area to the Greer Stadium, since they built it in the late 70s.
Gotcha.
And so the RFQ stated, that was a 21-acre parcel. So we use that, and as you can see in the image that's on the screen, there's kind of a little tail off to the right side. That's the area that we'd hope to connect to 6th Avenue, so that we can, create a pedestrian-friendly neighborhood with the other city departments together that can move people through downtown, through this, as a usable park and greenway to South Nashville.
So you would just be building around it?
We'd be building at the base of it. So I don't know off my head the specific elevations, but it is significantly lower than the fort. So it's our concept that the view sheds, which is why these buildings, have cuts through them and stuff, is so that from the fort, all of the historic views of the city are preserved.
Okay, thank you. And then the next question I had was, you have $2.6 million in new tax revenues and 600 permanent jobs. So what type of jobs are those, and how do you know it's going to be 2.6 million in new tax revenue? What are you basing that on?
So we had hired a consultant. One of the questions was, what are the economic benefits? Do an economic benefit study. We hired somebody, Randall Gross, to do that work, and including in our response to Metro was his report, and those are his numbers that he derived.
Okay, but would he share what type of jobs?
Sure.
I guess I'm just curious to know. It says 600 permanent jobs. What type of jobs those would be?
Okay.
Yeah, just more specifically, and just the revenue, how that tax revenue looks.
Okay.
Because the properties are rental, right? So where's that revenue coming from? Like, what are you basing that off of?
And I'll get that to you.
Okay, and then the retail revenue as well.
Okay.
How that looks.
Gladly.
All right, thank you.
Last question, Councilor Johnson. Please be brief.
All right. Thank you, Chair Davis. I will keep it short. I came in late, actually, and I apologize for that. A demanding work schedule today. But in just briefly looking over this, one of the things that I think I'm going to have a conflict with regard to this project, and I have to disclose, is my son just bought a condo at 1260, and he is literally for this plan. He works with a high-tech company here, and he likes the creative space, and he wants to see the history preserved because that's very, very important to him as well. So one of the things he wanted me to ask was how much percentage of the property is preserved for the historic preservation part, how much creative space is there going to be, and how much affordable housing, because he had a very difficult time as a young professional trying to get housing. He lost a contract on 3 properties in Councilman Sledge's district. He really, really wanted to be over there for some reason as a young IT professional. And every house they tried to get, somebody else beat them out of it. It's just been very frustrating for a young person who really wants to live in that area. So a big proponent of what he wanted me to ask about tonight was a part of it that he wanted me to ask about was the affordable housing piece. Explain that to me. What is the percentage and how many people would benefit from that?
Thank you for your question. So the image that we have up right now so there's different classifications we propose for the affordable housing. One is 0 to 50% AMI, but we thought it might be easier to break that down for what the salaries look like for these AMIs, so you can see how as normal Nashvillians we all fit into this. So 80 units are for people making $0 to $34,350. And then we have 87 units for people that make $34,000 to $54,000, 42 units for people that make $54,000 to $68,000, and then 85 units for people who make more. And I'm sorry, I'm saying people, but what I really mean is families of 4. That's how these statistics are created, so for households. And so for these different 4 sets, 80, 87, 42, and 85 units, those could be a mixture of studio apartments, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, or 3-bedroom townhouse situations.
So the 160 some odd units, that's the 80 units, 87 units, which would encompass many of the young professionals that seek to live in this area. Are many of those 1-bedroom, or are many of them 2 to 3? What is that?
So they're more on the latter side that you spoke of. And I think, it's important, as you mentioned, that this is a place for the young professionals, for the creative class you mentioned, and also for the communities that already call this neighborhood home. The Edge Hill community being very close, the Chestnut Hill community being very close. And so I think to the other part of your question of how it all works together, so what's shown is in color here is the larger, almost 65 acres that Metro Parks Department owns. And then the way our buildings work, we're hoping that they'll complement the park that's already there and make sure that this neighborhood stays a place for the communities that call it home. And then the creative class and the entrepreneurial class, being sort of the newer of those communities.
Okay, in terms of the breakdown for the project itself, with subcontractors and prime, is the majority, I'm almost finished. This is important too, because I have been asked a lot of questions around this because of other projects with Metro. Will you be contracting with minority companies, specifically African American companies, as subprime or prime? I want to see opportunity for prime. I'm tired of subprime.
And Council Lady, we intend to do just that. We are going to be searching and seeking those particular contractors that are capable and can actually perform the work. I will also add that we started out looking for a minority archaeologist and have run into a roadblock on that. And I've done a search from as far north as New York and still haven't come up with anyone. So we are extending and doing our search and reaching out as far as we possibly can in order to make sure we have qualified prime and subcontractors to perform on the job.
I want all the efforts made to get prime, but I'll close at this. I usually side on I usually err on the side of preservation as totally. I understand we have to find a balance. I'm going to study this proposal a lot closer than what I have, because this is not in my district, so I've not actually looked at all of the details of this proposal. It seemingly is very important to a lot of people in our city. We want to preserve history. That is definitely key. If there's anything that you highlight in this proposal that I really want to see, is majority of it preservation, giving people the opportunity to be able to live in that area with affordable housing, and giving the contracting opportunities to African-American companies is prime. Thank you.
And in closing, moving on to the next meeting, there's one part of history that we need to correct, and I don't think it was intentional. Yes, the fort was built by freed African American citizens here in Nashville and escaped slaves here in Nashville, but also it was built by African American Union soldiers from the North, and that's a very important aspect we must add. That was a Union fort garrisoned by African American soldiers. That's a big part of the history. That, I saw a letter today that had that one small part left out of it, but it's a very important part of the history. And I just want to thank everybody for the time and their patience. Have a great evening. God bless you.
Thank you.